welcome back. Today I'm out at the Linn Grove Cemetery in Greeley, Colorado. We're going to be visiting the mass grave of 10 circus men. So I'm going to tell you about their story as we go look for their grave. On August 29th, 1884, the Orton's Anglo-American circus train was moving from a show in Fort Collins to here in Greeley, where they were scheduled to perform the next day. A railroad car was in flames when the engineers saw it about 12:30 a.m. The circus train fire was one of the worst disasters in Weld County history and probably one of the first. 10 men died in the burning railroad car, despite efforts to get them out and to extinguish the fast-burning fire. In addition, the circus owners and managers were chastised by local officials and the newspapers because of their cover-up of the facts and their callous disregard for the victims. The fire was first seen by the engineer as the train moved south on the Burlington Northern Tracks, 9 miles northeast of Greeley, close to where the Kodak of Colorado plant is located today. The train was traveling about 25 miles per hour when the engineer saw the flames. He testified later and slammed on the braking system of the train. He and other men rushed back to the car and found the doorways were blocked with flames and the men trapped inside. With no electricity in the car, they used torches, matches, or lanterns to find their way. With both escape doors blocked by flames, only one small window was clear for attempted escapes. The men outside began carrying water and pouring bucketfuls on the flames. It did little to stop the rapidly spreading blaze. The heat was so intense, it buckled the steel under the car. Meanwhile, hearing the screams of the men inside the car, the engineer uncoupled the engine and sped to Greeley to find a doctor. He returned with Dr. Jesse Haas, one of Greeley's most respected doctors and the president of the State Medical Association. For many of the men, it was too late. The story in the Greeley Tribune was headlined, 10 men roasted alive, and went into horrid details of the burn injuries and graphic descriptions of the scene. While the coroner's inquest determined the fire was probably started by one of the men carrying a torch through the car, officials couldn't find a reason the fire spread so quickly. After the inquest, others stepped forward to explain that the inhumane circus managers had stacked barrels of highly flammable naphtha in the car, blocking both doorways, and that's why the men were trapped inside. The paper was also critical of the circus manager, who continued on to Denver with the train, leaving the 10 men dead to be buried at the expense of the county. The circus also allegedly tried to take the injured men on the train with them to save the cost of hospital care, but Dr. Haas refused to release them. The Orton Circus changed their schedule and turned the train south to Denver, where they performed the next day. The dead were all circus workers, many of them drifters picked up along the way, and no one knew them very well. The day after the fire, the dead were buried in a large 7-foot by 10-foot coffin in this paupers section of the cemetery. A small cement marker provided by the county with a tombstone that stated simply 10 circus men. More than 100 years later, Greeley Monument Works donated a new stone that told more of their story, but the men were still identified. Then along came Patty Morgan, who said when she first heard about it, thought it was a really sad story, and she thought the men needed to be identified. So in old news stories from across the country, Morgan found them. Only a few by full name, most of them with only first or nicknames, because they were circus workers without real homes. That's how the lives were. Morgan found the names of the men were Alex McLeod, Thomas McCarthy, John Kelly, Samuel Norris, Silverthorne, Andy, French, Frank, George, and Smithy. So here is their mass grave here. And I had a hard time finding it because there's a wreath in front, but I'll move this for a little bit so we can see. Burial site of 10 circus men, August 29th, 1884. An early morning railroad car fire killed 10 men between Fort Collins and Greeley en route to a scheduled performance of Orton's Anglo-American Circus show. Then they put their names on: Alexander McLeod, Thomas McCarthy, John Kelly, Frank, Andy, Frenchie, George, Smithy, Silverthorne, and it says one unknown. So yeah, there's one big coffin for all 10 of the men who died in the fire. And thanks to Patty Morgan, who figured out the identities and got this new tombstone to put their names on it. Rest in peace. Hope you enjoyed that video and getting to see the grave of the 10 circus men. Please like and subscribe for some more videos, and I'll see you at the next grave. Thanks.